thinking like, can I do this? Like that's like you like punching your creative spirit in the nuts. You can't do that. Mr. Robert Rodriguez, wonderful, talented filmmaker. I know last week when we were talking about Chris Stuckman and how he made his own film and the risk it took and just the dedication to the craft in terms of just trying to make your own film, trying to create and this story of Robert Rodriguez is very, very fascinating. I know, David, you brought up last week. You're the one who introduced this to me with him being on Joe Rogan and his process of being creative, of being a filmmaker. In the first 20 minutes of him being on that podcast, you get such a rich look into how he works. And us as being creative, it's important not to think too much because I think, in a way, being a perfectionist is kind of the downfall of being a creative. And I fall into that trap almost on a daily basis at my job since I'm a graphic designer. I try and be perfect, and that's just not possible as much as we'd like it to be. And with Robert Rodriguez and the way he talks about his process is just super inspiring. And yeah, within that first 20 minutes, like he just gives you such a great look in terms of with specifically how he uses index cards. And he's like, the way he holds them up, he's like, you could change your life with these. And it's so interesting. Like you say that to anyone, it's like, well, how so? Well, and then he kind of explains how he does it, where he'll lay them out and then he'll write if he's making a script, like you're like, all right, I'll have this character, I'll have this character. Maybe they'll be at this place, maybe it's during this period of time, maybe this music is going on at this moment. And once he started explaining that, it was like, oh, that's so true. It's like anyone has, I'd say if you're creative, whether it's in the arts of film or photography, anything that's creative, painting, like we all have, and Robert Rodriguez talks about this, where we have a creative spirit within us, and allowing that creative spirit to kind of take over is the key to making some very interesting creative things. And I think the moment we try and be a perfectionist or the moment we overthink is when our creative soul kind of it just doesn't work. Our creative spirit needs us to just kind of relax and just let us, because we have the creativity. Like Robert says this beautifully. We have the creativity inside of us. We just need to just let it out and don't overthink. Just let your creative spirit take over as you're writing. Because I know I heard this somewhere, but in terms of like writing a script, like a writer's biggest enemy is a blank page. Like once you get into, let's say, a Google Doc and you're just faced with a blank page and you're like, I want to write this script. And the moment you see that blank page, it's like, oh, can I write this? Can I? And the moment you keep thinking like, can I do this? Like that's like you like punching your creative spirit in the nuts. You can't do that. You gotta just type. And it's like once you type, that's when it takes over, and that's when you're able to really create. David, I know you're the one who introduced this to me with Robert being on the Rogan podcast. Give such great insight into how he works.
I've listened to slash watched that podcast I think 3 times now. Not the full thing, but the first 22 minutes, 25 minutes, first hour, like you said, are the most impactful in terms of talking about how he works and his filmmaking process, his creative process. I don't know if you got to the part where how he invented the walking away from explosion shot.
No, I don't think so.
So he made that shot, like he essentially, really by accident,
Okay.
in one of his films. And the idea of the creative spirit, I think, is so powerful. I wish I understood it that way when I was in design in college, because that might have helped me a little bit. I ended up
Yeah.
dropping out of a design major and ended up going into a more generic field, business. After I listened to that podcast, I was just like, I was so inspired to go write something. And then after that, I believe is when I wrote Nutcase and I presented that short film idea to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up writing a brief script for my family to shoot a horror film based on a very fun board game that we like. We didn't end up following through with it, which was a little annoying for me. But like you talked about the blank page,
Mm-hmm.
and I've experienced this, and like what Robert was saying is so true. All you have to do is start, and once you start, and you just like release something within yourself, it just takes over, and it's crazy the type of things that we can come up with. I started writing that case into a feature film. I haven't finished any of these things. My hands are tied in a lot of different things right now, um, and I don't have a lot of time. But for the time period that I had, it literally just took over, and I was in like another world almost. He has such an inspiring story of basically being from nothing and making something that was really cool. He teaches this method for other people. And my whole life everyone has told me like you're not creative, you're like analytical and logical, which is true, but I do have that creative side, and it's just the creative spirit letting itself out if I let it out.
Mm-hmm.
Super super inspiring. I encourage you to listen to more of it.
Oh yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
the first 20 minutes are so deep and so rich, like you talked about.
Yeah, it's super exciting, super inspiring. I know coming out of this, like, I mean, soon I definitely got to find some index cards and just write
Yes.
some stuff and just create. Um, I know one idea that I had was like, is it possible to make a film in 24 hours? And I wanted to challenge myself and kind of follow Robert's ideology with this and just kind of just document it and see what I could do with what I have. I think, well, in terms of the creative process, the less you have, the more creative you have to be. And it sounds impossible to make a film in under 24 hours. It sounds anxiety ridden. It sounds just awful, but it should be an interesting exercise if I try to go through with it. And
Do it.
yeah, it should be pretty interesting
You should do
to
it.
see.
Because one, it's 24 hours, so it's a day. If you don't do it, you learn a ton. If you just start, let that puppy out. I know you have felt the same way that I have felt about the creative spirit. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess I was going to ask you, what have you been inspired to do? Is it the 24-hour thing, or is there another thing in addition?
I'd say that was like the most like wild idea. So like that being wild really attracted me. Yeah, I'd say probably that. And like it hasn't really pushed me to write any script because in terms of I don't know, like within film, I feel like for me my golden spot is cinematography. I love photography. That's what I'm doing at my current job right now. Not as much as I'd like to, but just shooting things, how you frame things in a shot. It's just really neat to see what you can capture in a frame. And I think even within this exercise of a 24-hour film, you could totally like in terms of me focusing on the cinematography, I think you could really exploit that really well because if you want to save time, that would force you to do like a one shot and shoot everything in one take, possibly. Like imagine that, like a 24-hour film or a film in under 24 hours is just a one take. And how can I make that interesting would be very sounds very daunting, but it would be pretty fun.
Or I was going to say, because you talked about cinematography is like your focus, you could start with the frames. Pick 5, 10 frames that you think would look really good in a movie, and you could pull off with the 24-hour thing. Then you
Yeah,
rework like backwards and write the script around that. Just a thought.
I like it. I like where you're thinking. Yeah, I'll definitely try that. Yeah, we'll see. I'm planning to do it some sort of weekend day, and I'll definitely document that create some cool, interesting YouTube video out of it.
Yes, that would be such a good YouTube video too.
I know,
That
right?
would be such a good one
I
too.
know. I mean, I can just imagine the thumbnail, like film in under 24 hours, like
Yes.
be insane.
If you need help with that, like 24 hours by yourself,
I mean, it doesn't have to be.
okay. All right. If you need help, I'm not super available all the time, but I will
Yeah.
try.
Right.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Another thing I wanted to touch on with this story is that, like, he was talking about with his kids, and it's really cool because, like, as we're both 27 right now, we we've been conditioned to work in a certain way where we kind of like diminish our creative spirit, where we just overthink. While Robert trained his kids at an early age, like he gave them the index cards at an early age and just told them like just do stuff. And because they didn't have what we've had experienced up until now, they haven't had that just thought in their head that they couldn't do it, or they never second guessed. They're just like, okay. And like being a kid, you're like, okay, you just gonna do whatever. And that's such a special thing because I know he said, I think his kids are all working professionally in that stuff within film, with some other stuff, but sounds like they're doing pretty well. They're definitely learning the creative process. I know when he was talking about his son when they were working on a film, and they're having issues. I think his son was the director, and they're having issues on set. He's like, the actors aren't showing up. This isn't working right. This isn't doing it. Robert was like, well, you just like, calm down and just see where it takes you. Like, don't overthink. Just see what happens. And by the end of that day, it turned out insanely well, apparently. And he needed to see the creative process and how that worked in real time to really get it in his head to just kind of take it as he goes. Cause like, I think you also kind of mentioned like life imitates art and like vice versa, where just as you go throughout your day, like you never know how your day is going to go. And you just kind of take it as you will. Some great things can happen. Also, bad things can happen, but hopefully, great things. And you take that within the arts as well and just take it as you're going. The creative process is, I mean, something even learning from college, like when I was in graphic design classes with typography, and the multiple iterations it takes to make something interesting takes a long time. It could take you a few tries, but for the most part, it takes a good bit. And I think being able to accept the time it takes to make something, whether it's short or long, it's going to be lead to something pretty neat. And understanding the creative process is important to get where you want to go. So very grateful for David recommending this because I love this. I think if you're a creative person, we all have that spirit, and just let it fly, let it run.